Hey, what's up, friends? Grant Bowden here. Welcome back to the Speaker Lab podcast. Good to have you here with us today. We've got a great show for you. This is actually the final show of 2019. So we have, it's been a great year. I hope you've had a great year. And as we get ready to go into the new year, the new decade, I hope that you're going to have a great speaking year and excited for the road ahead, not only for you, but for the Speaker Lab. We got some great stuff in store for the new year and excited to continue to help and serve and support you. Now, one of the big things that you've probably heard, hopefully have heard by now, that we have coming out is a brand new book called The Successful Speaker, 5 Steps for Booking Gigs, Getting Paid, and Building Your Platform. It's going to be out February 18th. But we have a lot of pre-order bonuses available for those that pick it up now. So you can go over to thespeakerlab.com/book, thespeakerlab.com/book, and there you can pre-order your copy. Actually, if you pre-order the book, we're going to also give you the audiobook for free. So make sure you go pick that up as well. There's several other bonuses there that are going to be included. But this is everything that we know about the speaking industry. We put into this resource. Really, really excited about it. You're going to get a ton out of it. If you are interested in being a full-time speaker or being a part-time speaker or anything in between, you just say, hey, I'm just interested in speaking a couple times a year. This is the book. This is the resource, the guide, the handbook that you need that you're going to read. You're also going to be able to refer back to over the next several months and years as you continue to build and grow your own speaking business. So again, don't forget to pick that up. The Successful Speaker, 5 Steps for Booking Gigs, Getting Paid, Building Your Platform. Again, pre-order that by going over to thespeakerlab.com/book. Okay, so let's get to today's guest. Today we are talking with my friend Mark Bowden. Mark is a phenomenal speaker. He has a great accent, which we talk about here right out of the gate. We also talk about how he has built his business and how he's made sure that he has picked a lane that has made sense for him. He's not trying to be all things for all people. We also talk about he gives 3 things that he has done that's helped him to build and grow his business, the things that has really moved the needle most for him. We also talk about the difference between picking a topic that you're interested and passionate about versus actually picking a result that you can deliver to a client. So we spend a lot of time talking about that. We also talk about how he speaks primarily on body language. And so we talk about the things that speakers need to be aware of whenever they are speaking and things that they're doing non-verbally that may be sending the wrong message to an audience. So we talk about that, as well as how he is building his speaking business and how he's thinking about his business beyond just himself, beyond just a personal brand. So some really good, insightful things there from Mark. The name Mark Bowden might sound familiar because we've actually done a speech breakdown reaction video to his TED Talk. So we're going to link up to that in the show notes as well. But Mark is a phenomenal speaker. I'd encourage you to check out that TED Talk, check out that reaction video, and a lot that, again, you can learn from that as a speaker. All right, let's get into this conversation with Mark Bowden. Enjoy. Hey, what's up, friends? Grant Bowden here. Welcome back to the Speaker Lab podcast. Today, joined by my speaker friend and colleague, Mr. Mark Bowden. Mark, thanks for joining us today. How are you?
Great to be here. Thanks for having me around.
Not only are you a phenomenal speaker, but people can't see, but you have great hair, way more than I've got, and you've got this sexy accent. How much do you feel like the accent helps you when talking to event planners and then also speaking to audiences?
Without the hair and the accent, I would be nothing. There'd be no business, no content. It's all about the hair and the accent.
That must be what I'm missing because I don't have either.
That's where you've gone wrong.
Good to know. Good to know what I need to do to clean up my act.
Yeah. We can now finish the podcast. Done.
It's perfect.
That's all the advice people need.
Those are the secrets. You need hair and an accent.
Get a lot of hair. Get an English accent.
Do you think that the accent makes a difference? I've asked other people this. I've talked with Phil Jones about this. We've talked with some people from down under. What do you feel like it makes a difference for you?
So actually, when I'm speaking, people often ask me afterwards or say, hey, we really respond to the accent, especially in the US. You think that I might be intelligent or have something interesting to say. Here's what I say. Look, the British, English especially, we spent a lot of money over a lot of years and spent a lot of blood, other people's and our own, wandering around the planet, basically going, when you hear this voice, you're listening to the voice of authority. Pay attention. It's true, that's what we did. And so there is a culture of when you hear this voice, you're listening, especially if I do my BBC World Service voice. This is the BBC. So if I do my English radio voice, people really pay attention to it. Yeah. Of course, it makes a difference.
That's interesting. That's cool. All right, so let's give kind of a big picture of you to start with, and then we'll kind of go back in time and figure out how you got to this point. But how much speaking are you doing today? Who are you usually speaking to? What are you usually speaking about?
I would speak, hopefully, certainly once a week. somewhere. I mean, it aggregated over the year. So yeah, I would be looking at about, I don't know, like 60 to 70 gigs a year, something like that. And some of that might be more training pieces, workshops, but in the main, it's keynote speeches, 45 minutes to an hour and a half, mainly in the US and Canada. There is a lot in outside of that as well, but look, that's the main amount of the business. And who am I talking to? It would be leadership and sales, I would say, is a good generalization. And I think the people who really enjoy my work are those industries that have system thinking mindsets. So less and less kind of creative industries and more engineers, people who are working with financial products, people who know relationships are important for selling and leading, but the mindset that they believe they're in is a systematic one. If you do X and Y, you should get Z. And they have thought for many years, we're not good at the communication human element of it. And my take would be, that's not true. It's just a system like any other system. It's a human system, and you can learn that system of communication.
And do you do that primarily? I know one of the core things that you teach on and that you speak on is body language. Is that primarily what you're doing? Or are you saying, I speak primarily on just kind of human dynamics and human relationships, and body language just happens to be a part of that?
No, it's very much focused on nonverbal communication and how you can use that on purpose to stand out, win trust, gain credibility. So it is about trust and credibility and how important that is within business, industry, organizations. And I approach that from a nonverbal point of view. That's really, I'm a specialist in that area. People are fascinated with that as well. So that's what they want. Now, it's not to say I then don't go on in workshops and breakouts and larger amounts of training that I do with an organization to look at other aspects. But body language is my entry point and often my exit point as well.
Got it. All right, cool. Let's backtrack a little bit. How did you first get into speaking?
Somebody just asked me. They said, will you? I said, okay. They said, will you come and speak to our sales team?
What were you doing at the time?
About this. At the time, I was training actors. I was training performers. I was working at top drama schools in the UK and across the world. I worked in Israel and in Europe and all over the world, training people in how to tell stories with pictures, how to use their body to influence and persuade audiences. And an organization came to me and they'd heard about this work that I was doing. And they said, can you, actually the first time it was during the .com crash in Europe. And an organization came to me and said, we represent some companies that have really bad news. Can you help them tell? Can you help people listen to the bad news? And I went, yeah, I can do that. So I started training people in business at that time. And then a sales organization came to me and said, oh, we've heard about what you're doing in terms of trust and credibility. Can you train our salespeople? And it just escalated from there.
Was your desire though at the time, if you were doing a lot of training, like in the acting, theatrical space, because it seems like, there's some overlap, but there's also, it's a bit of a different world. Were you wanting to keep doing that? Or is it kind of, and I'm just going to kind of speak and do some of this business stuff on the side? Or at what point did it kind of shift to the point where like, I don't know, this business stuff is either more lucrative or it's more fun or I'm enjoying it more, or what started to check the boxes for you that you wanted to move more that direction?
Yeah, so I'd spent a lot of time doing it with performers, a lot of time, and got very specialized and very good at that and well known at that and made a really good living at that. And then I saw how much even better living you could make in business. And it really fascinated me. It interested me because communication in business, the bar was so low. It's the knowledge level compared to the knowledge level that we had in the arts. The knowledge level was super low. And so the impact that I could have there was massive. And people knew that and they would pay you accordingly.
Yeah.
So it just seemed ridiculous not to, number one, keep the two things going.
Yeah.
And so this was in the UK and Europe. I was based in London at the time. Then we moved to Canada because we could. We thought, let's try it. Let's see what Toronto has to offer. And the arts in Toronto at the time was just, way less prevalent. But business was starting to really boom here. And there was great entry into the US market. And obviously the US market is a huge market for business. And it just seemed ridiculous not to get involved. So
what do you do early on then, where you're doing some of these business gigs that may sound like they kind of word of mouth or referral kind of fall in your lap type thing, but then to go from there to, which is I think a spot that a lot of speakers find themselves in, especially early on, is, I've had a couple things fall in my lap. This is fun. I enjoy it. I want to do more of this. Now what? What do I do from there? So how do you go from, I'm doing a few things, I want to ramp this up, I want to ultimately perhaps make this a full-time career. What are some of the steps that you started to take to just be able to more consistently book gigs?
Look, I would say I've never really done any marketing other than getting out there and speaking and making videos and getting the content out there. So I think there are two things that I've done to make sure that I have a consistent pipeline of opportunities coming in. The first thing I did was tell anybody and everybody that I spoke.
Yeah.
So I was not shy about that.
Right.
So I'm going to say there's three things that I've done. So number one was just telling everybody I speak. That's what I do.
How did that make any difference for you?
Here's what I've seen other people do. They go, I want to be speaking. It's like, okay. Like, are you telling everybody, your friends and your family? Well, I can't, I'm kind of waiting until I'm any good at this. It's like, don't wait. You're not going to get any good by waiting. Right. You're going to get good by getting in front of the audience and testing this stuff out for real and getting the flying time, the hours in the air, in front of that audience. So the opportunities will come when you tell people that's what I do, because they'll go, oh, my wife runs, company X. Right. They have an offsite, just all of that stuff happens. People know people. Yep. And just the opportunities will come, but it's just having that bravery to go, this is what I do. I speak. Yeah. There's that. The other thing is not hiding the content, giving the content away. So I would say starting the work immediately. So people will go, what do you do? And I'm an expert in human behavior and body language. I help people stand out, win trust, gain credibility every time they speak. And it's then very easy for them to go, oh, so, what are the things I should do if I'm speaking? What are the signals of trust and credibility in body language? It would be very easy to go, well, I can't tell you that. You've got to pay me. Like I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. This is my secret potion. This is my secret potion. It's like, and the moment I realized, don't do that. And I realized it by going down to my local market in Toronto. There's a beautiful market, St. Lawrence Market. And I noticed as I walked into the market, there was a guy, he was a butcher, and he was cooking sausages and cutting them up into little portions. Yeah. And as you walked in, you'd eat a bit of sausage. Yeah, yeah. And you'd go, God, that's a tasty sausage. And then you go, yeah, I'll have 3 pounds of those sausages. And there was some poor butcher at the back of the market who could not sell me 3 pounds of sausage because I'd already had a taste of somebody else's and I'd bought 3 pounds and I now didn't need any other meat. Yeah. And it's that thing of giving away your best product, service, whatever it is, straight away to that person in front of you right now, going, look, let me do the work with you right now. Yeah. And they get that taste and they go, God, that works. It already feels good. I already get it. And they go, how would I get the full meal, the full dinner? Right.
It seems like you do a lot of that today with video. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. So look, you don't need to hire me. You don't need to hire. Go and watch the videos. It's all there. It's all there for free. Here's the thing is, though, you can't get your salespeople to watch those videos. You can't get all 7,000 of your people to watch that video. Yeah. They're not going to do it for you. You've got to get them in a room. You've got to buy them dinner, lunch, coffee.
Get their attention.
You get their attention. Yeah. And so I've got to realize that giving my best work away is the best thing that I can do in order for you to know that this is the product or service that you want your leaders and your salespeople to get some of.
Yeah.
And then you end up hiring me, but I can't keep it secret. Third thing, I decided that I was going to be known as the expert in human behavior and body language. And so I just started making sure people knew that. I was very clear. Now, I didn't try and become an expert in something that lots of people were trying to be an expert in.
Right.
So, for example, I am not an expert in marketing. There are loads of those out there.
Yep.
Like, how do we know which one is better than the other? Or, I don't know, there's just too many of them.
Right.
I don't know. Experts in body language, there's about 5 of us.
Yeah.
Like, we all know each other.
Right,
we all know where each one of us is even niched within that, and where we've come from, which is different from others. We really respect each other.
Yeah.
We talk to each other. We hang out. It's a small group of very niched expertise.
Yeah.
And so, and I was lucky in that I was obsessed by that anyway. But it would have been easy for me to go, I'm obsessed with body language, but, really seems like there's a lot of marketing speakers out there. I should become a marketing speaker.
Right.
I could have easily done that, but it just, like, the market seemed flooded. Let's do something that nobody else seems to be doing.
Kind of a balance there, though, because if a speaker, like a newer speaker, is getting started and they're looking for the opportunities that exist, and they say, okay, there's a whole bunch of marketing speakers and there's very few human dynamics or human communication or body language speakers, then maybe there's just not as many opportunities that exist over there. And maybe that's the case, or maybe that's just kind of a false impression. But how do you find that balance? Like for you, it seemed like I'm passionate about body language. So there's no other topic I'm super interested in that would be a fit. I feel like I'm an expert in this. I'm going to pick a lane, draw a line in the sand, put my flag here that this is what I'm going to be known for. But just because you're passionate about body language doesn't necessarily guarantee that organizations and groups hire speakers to talk about that. So thankfully they do. But how do you know that, like, especially early on, like, I had a friend that asked me to do that first gig. And so, but I didn't know that necessarily there's a bigger market than just that one opportunity to speak on the subject of body language. So is there anything that you did to just kind of determine, like, yeah, not only am I passionate about it, but there's also like a legitimate marketplace that exists and need an opportunity that exists on this specific topic?
Yeah. So here's the important thing for me. There is a marketplace for the result that I bring. And people might bring that result through different methods.
Yeah.
I bring the result of trust and credibility. If I'm talking to an organization, essentially the conversation is, your people, your salespeople, your leaders, could they benefit from more trust and credibility when they meet other people, when they stand up and present to them?
Yeah.
If they could stand out immediately, win trust immediately, be seen as credible, even before they've opened their mouth, would that be useful for you? There is no organization that goes, no, actually, trust and credibility, we've got enough. Like, we are just,
we're stocked.
We got shed loads of that stuff in the back. We're like selling it to other people. It's just, we got so much of that stuff. Nobody's ever said that. They're like, yeah. And so they'll come with problems, but ultimately I turn all the problems into one of trust and credibility.
Yeah.
And then I say, look, there are many ways that you might want to fix trust and credibility. I do it through human behavior and body language. Why do I do it? Because it's the fastest, most effective way to win trust and gain credibility is through your nonverbal behavior. And that's what gets me the speaking gigs.
Yeah.
Is I'm dealing with trust and credit. Nobody needs a body language speaker. It's interesting, super interesting,
right.
But ultimately they want a result,
right.
which is more trust and credibility every time they sell or every time they lead.
Yep. I think that's so important. I hope speakers are getting that and that resonates with them, because that's so true. Because just because you're passionate about a topic doesn't necessarily mean that organizations are hiring that. So like to your point, a CEO or a director of sales is not lying in bed at night thinking, man, how do we help our people better understand body language? But they are thinking about, how do we increase trust? Or how do we increase sales? Or how do we increase revenue? And one of the ways we can do that is by teaching better communication skills. And one of the ways to do that is through body language. So again, you're getting at the result, but ultimately what they are wanting, the thing that they're wanting, is increased teamwork or results or sales or whatever it may be.
Absolutely. And let me add one more thing to that, which I think was a slightly later development that's been around for a number of years for me was understanding actually really in terms of the event, what the event wants from a speaker.
Yeah.
And what I landed on and what I try and provide for an event is the moment in that day when the audience goes, well, that has made the day worth it. That is like, I traveled here to get here. I've had to stay at a hotel. It's not a great hotel. It's like, and I know this afternoon we have to sit through VP of sales giving us a lecture on the new order entry system. Yeah. That is going to be dire. No offense to all VP sales out there, but it is dire. And there's that, I'm trying to give them, my aim is to give them that moment where they go, God, that was worth it.
Yeah.
It's now okay. That's made, and they've got something to go and tell their friends and family about as well. And they get home that evening or the next day, and they go, look, they go, what was it? Where were you at? I had to go to San Diego and, whatever. It's like, but there was this guy. He was like talking about this body language thing. It was amazing. And they start demonstrating it. They start doing the speech to their friends and family.
Right.
Here's what I say that I do to myself. I don't really publicize this, but I would count myself as an artist. And my art is to remind people that they're alive. Mm-hmm. That's simply it. To remind them that they are not just a head. They are a living, breathing thing, a body. And it's alive right now in the room with me. And I want to get them to check their body again.
Yeah.
To go, wow, this thing's real flesh and I can move it and do stuff with it on purpose and get an effect. That's what I'm trying to do.
I want to go back to something you touched on earlier. You mentioned that you are speaking in a very kind of unique niche on body language and human communication, where you said there's probably 5 of you or so-ish that are in this space. You said you all kind of compare notes and you talk and you share business. Now, to some speakers, they may see that and go, wait a minute, that's your competition, that's your competitors. So yet, that sounds like that has also really moved the needle for you in your business. So can you talk to why it's important to just network and connect with other speakers, especially in your space, even though on paper, they may be your competitors and you may be losing business to them from time to time, but why has that moved the needle for you?
Yeah, I think because we need to, in our niche, we need to support each other. We need to get the credibility of our subject matter up. There's none of us are out there going, is the world of human behavior and body language, is it credible enough?
Yeah.
Right now. No, it absolutely could do with more credibility.
Yeah.
And so we want to support each other. You never want to be there going, Joe Navarro, what the hell does he know? He doesn't know anything.
Right.
These FBI guys, retired FBI, how, yawn. You want to be there going, Joe is, because he is. Joe is fantastic. Yeah. And he's different from me. We both talk about body language, but Joe is ex-FBI. He's interrogated murderers and psychopaths, and that's incredible. He's got an incredible story, and he's going to be helpful. And look, get me in, or get Joe in, or get us both in. Chase Hughes, ex-interrogator again, and just incredible background in Navy detentions and interrogation.
Right.
A totally different background from me. We share a lot of content, but ultimately you're buying a different person and character to get this information across.
Right.
And it's like, who fits your audience? So it doesn't really, get me or Joe or Chase or it's all going to be great.
Yeah.
But get in somebody on body language.
Right.
Well, that's what we're trying to do, I think, by supporting each other.
Yeah, it's like that expression that a rising tide raises all ships. And so know that the more people, the more that body language just as a topic is on event planners' radars, the more that's going to land with one of you. And to your point, there's not one speaker that can speak at every possible event on body language. So the more that are out there doing it, and the more that you may go in and speak one year and do awesome, and they say, we loved you, but we're not going to have you back for 3, 4, 5 years. And you can say, awesome, you need to have my friend Joe. Joe would be awesome. Yeah. He's going to give a similar thing, but different kind of spin on it. And this would be incredibly valuable for your team. And Joe's going to be able to do the same thing for Mark and say, Mark, you need to have my speaker or my buddy Mark come speak at your event. Get a lot of referral and a lot of repeat, or a lot of spin spin-off stuff from that just by connecting with your competitors, which sounds counterintuitive, but it's an extremely effective way to build a business.
Well, someone once said to me, and this was in Toronto, and we've got a street on Toronto called Bay Street, which is our kind of Wall Street. It's our center of business. And they said to me, you know what? It's a long life and a small street. So I think what they were saying is like, make friends, because you're going to live a long time. You're going to be in this industry a long time. And it's quite a small world. So there's no need for enemies. There's no need for competition. There's plenty out there. Make friends. It'll be better.
Very much so. This is it's a small pond that we all swim in. And so you don't want to build a reputation amongst other speakers that you're just a jerk or a pain in the butt to work with or any of that stuff. It's not
be
worth
nice
it.
and super low maintenance.
Yeah, makes a big difference. Now, I want to ask you I got a couple things I want to ask you about. One is, as a body language expert, what are some things that speakers do that we're not aware of that is either a turnoff to the audience or is sending the wrong message or the wrong signal to the audience?
Yeah, so I would say the number one thing that speakers suffer from is actually not being animated. So it's a great word, animate, because it comes from anima, from life. They are not filled with, their body language is not filled with life. Yeah. It's not, as one of my teachers used to say, they load up the shotgun, but they don't cock it. Right. They don't, don't, it's broken. Right. And so we see that in their body language, that the lines of their energy are broken. There's no energy pulsing through their body. Now, that's not that they're, dashing all over the stage, and that the energy must be there and contained. Yeah. And focused, because that's charismatic. Charisma is full of focused energy. Yeah. But if they're not ready to fire, and they're not firing, right? They've loaded up, but they've not put everything in the right place, and they're not firing. Then the audience have to do it for them, and it's not their job. It's not the audience's job to bring the energy. Yeah, it's the audience's job to mirror the energy. So that would be my main thing is, and we see it mainly in the nonverbal communication of their body being in a constant rest state. Okay. And that you would see by consistently, you'll see the hands hanging down by their sides in a very limp way. Yeah. Now, other parts of the body may well be energized, but the limbs and the hands, the energy isn't flowing through those. They're not ready. They're not available. If you said to the speaker, if you threw the speaker a tennis ball, they'd be late to it. It's like, oh, and it would drop on the ground. And right. They're not ready to give or to receive. In technical terms, body-wise, I would say their body is not available. Okay. It's not available. So if you think about those terms as a speaker out there, listening to this, think about your body being available. Are you available? And what would availability look like? Feel like? What would you be doing if you were available? And you kind of touched on this. How do you find the balance between when you're on stage, you're to a degree you're performing, the bigger the audience, the bigger you have to be. The way that you're going to speak to a group of 20 people in a training environment for a couple of days is going to be very different than a theater with 5,000 people in it. So you have to be bigger. You have to be more animated in that type of setting. But how do you find the balance between doing that, of matching what the audience size is and the dynamic and the setting, but also being true to yourself, so it doesn't just you don't feel like hokey, or you don't feel like cheesy, or you're because it's also possible for a speaker to overdo it to the point where like, it just feels fake and it feels scripted, versus you go to the way other end of the spectrum. I think about, as you're kind of describing that, I was thinking about the TED Talk from Sir Ken Robinson, the very popular one. He talked about schools and creativity. I'm pretty sure, without having watched it recently, I'm pretty sure he comes out, he stands, he plants, and he doesn't move. Like he never moves anywhere on the stage, and yet it's an effective talk. For any speaker who's going, it's not my personality to be like this, like you said, kind of the all over the stage and the crazy dancing monkey, although that may work for some speakers. But I also want to be true to myself and figure out what that looks like for me. How do you kind of find that, what that right balance is? Yeah, so a couple of things on that. The first thing is you need to understand what we would call the optic of the stage. So you've got to understand from the audience's point of view How are they viewing you? How are they receiving you? And what are you going to need to do for them to have to do no work to get to receive your message?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's going to differ stage to stage, place to place. And so you're absolutely right. I don't need to bring the same performance to 20 people that I would to 2,000, 3,000, 7,000,
Yep.
because it's a different optic.
Yep.
But I must understand, I must be able to place myself in that audience's position and go, what is needed from me right now in order for them to get this without them having to make that effort? Because the effort I want them to make is for them to think about how they will use the message, not whether they get it. I don't want their brain going, well, what's he doing? What did he say? So what's happening now? It's not a crossword puzzle. It's not a guessing game that they've come for.
Yeah.
They must get the message and go, okay, so what if I did that?
Yeah.
What if I installed that in my life? Let me imagine that. I want their brain free to use their imagination about taking my ideas and using them. I don't want their brain consumed with, what's he doing? What's happening on his face? Where are his hands? What's going on right now?
Yeah.
So to that point, of course, Sir Ken can come on and be quite static. Because why? Because he's made that choice. So here's my system around this. Make a choice, make it bigger, keep it tidy. Yeah, just make a choice. Decide. Here's who I am. Here's what I'm doing. Here's how I'm going to display that. And then go, I should do that a bit more. When I say make it bigger, it doesn't mean necessarily make it physically bigger.
Yeah.
Make the idea bigger in your head. Make it, do it more. Do it in more of an extreme. Do it more intensely. So make a choice, make it bigger. And then when you've done that, don't let your mind go, oh, you know what? I should add a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I haven't got enough of this in it. No, that's it. Keep it tidy. Do nothing else. Make a choice, make it bigger, keep it tidy. That for me is the best performance advice I can give to anybody. It's the best advice for doing any type of art.
Yeah.
Is make a choice, make it bigger, keep it tidy.
Yeah.
Then it'll be a great piece.
For speakers that want to go deeper on this topic, you have a phenomenal TED Talk on this, on body language, and something that I did a speech breakdown of a while back. So we'll link up to that in the show notes, but I encourage people to check that out. One final question, and just doing some research on you, one of the things I noticed is that all of your speaking stuff falls under the umbrella of your, what I assume would be your company name, TruthPlane. So can you kind of talk about when an organization or an event is considering hiring you, are they hiring TruthPlane or are they hiring Mark? Because there are speakers who think about it different ways and how they should be positioning themselves. So I'm just curious why you've made some of the decisions you've made as it relates to that.
So I wanted a company and I wanted to be able to build something out that might be more than me. And that's always a work in progress, because there is, I think, you've maybe interviewed other speakers around this, and certainly you've probably experienced it yourself, is it's tricky when you're building a character and a brand around you.
Yes.
Which ultimately kind of has to happen with a speaker.
Yep.
And then at the same time, you're trying to build the idea of a company.
Yep.
And one has certainly built quicker than the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say it's still a little bit muddy as to what's what. By no means have the perfect answer or company around this. But what we are doing slowly but surely is adding other propositions to the TruthPlane kind of shelves.
Yeah.
Other trainers. So certainly we have trainers who can deliver my work or TruthPlane's work in different languages.
Oh, interesting.
So that's kind of the choice that we're making. Is I don't need to meet me in my own market, but being English, there's only one language that I speak.
Right.
Legally, the Queen won't allow me to speak French and stuff, Spanish. So what we look for is people who are like us, obsessed with communication and body language, and they'd love to deliver that work and sell that work out in a language market that, I certainly can't fulfill. That's slowly but surely we're trying to build out that TruthPlane offering.
Yeah, and it's true. There's a lot of speakers who say, I just want to be a personal brand and that's it. And other speakers who are thinking, beyond just them and what they can do. There's certainly a limitation there. There's only so many gigs you can do, only so much you can charge, only so many planes that you can ride on before you just realize there's more people and there's more opportunity and there's more that can be done. And I can't do it all. And so at some point, I want people to hire not just Mark, but I want people to hire Truthplane that Mark happens to be a part of. So it's definitely, you're right. It's there's not necessarily a right or wrong way to think about it. It's just there's pros and cons both ways. But it is something that every speaker needs to be thinking through and ultimately what they're trying to build.
Yeah, and to that point, what we're really trying to do is there's a lot of people on the planet, 7.6 billion people on the planet. I know, many of them really don't care about what I do or should care about what I do. I mean, there's just really no need. But to get the message out to people who really want it and need it, and it would totally help, we need more people and need more language. So I'm looking at it from that point of view to say, how do we get out and reach more people? Because the work is unique and it's special and it makes a massive difference to some people. So let's get it out there.
Yeah. Very good. Mark, thank you so much for the time. We really enjoyed this. It's a lot of fun. If people want to find out more about you, what you're up to, where can we go?
Actually, I would get yourself over to truthplane.com, TRUTHPLANE, truthplane.com. And when you're there, head over to the online training bit because there's lots of videos there that you can watch for free, enjoy.
You already told us all your stuff is there.
Yeah. Take it.
Very good. Thanks, man. We appreciate it.
Lovely. Great speaking to you. Thanks, Grant.
All right, there you go. Hope you enjoyed that conversation with Mark Bowden. Definitely check out his work over at truthplane.com. Again, that is truthplane.com. Also, don't forget to check out the TED Talk, the reaction video, the speech breakdown that I did of Mark's TED Talk. So again, we will link up to that in the show notes, or just go over to YouTube and search for Mark Bowden, Grant Baldwin, speech reaction, something like that. And you should be able to find the video there. Again, a reminder, don't forget to pre-order The Successful Speaker. It's going to be out February 18th, but you can get your copy now. You want to start 2020 strong in your speaking business. And so the book is the resource and the guide that you need to do that. So again, go over to thespeakerlab.com/book, thespeakerlab.com/book. There you can pre-order that copy, get your hands on it, start implementing it for the new year. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us, my friends. We'll catch you next time. You're awesome.